Thank you. It really is my honor. It is my honor to be able to stand before you. We've all stood side by side in a number of battles together, just year after year, primary after primary, general after general, race after race, county to county. We've stood shoulder to shoulder. I see so many faces out there of just people that it's been an honor to get to know you, to work with you, to just be alongside you over the years, different offices, different buildings. I love you all, and I couldn't mean that more from the bottom of my heart. See county commissioners, see friends Larry and Sue, they were sitting at my dinner table before we ever even had our 5th child. I see Linda sitting here smiling. Linda, you have a birthday coming up this week, right? Does everybody know Linda's got a birthday this week? Does everybody know that Sue just had a birthday? Sue just had a birthday. I see my buddy CORY Mills down here talking. I'm going to rope him in here a minute. Hey, CORY, I need you for a minute. Hey, you're going to get your chance to speak, but I think you and I should do a little duet for the 2 birthday girls a minute. You want to come up here? We're not going to do the long birthday song in Congress. There's a lot of really swampy things, but our birthday song is actually reasonably efficient. So, should we do the birthday song for the 2 ladies? You want to stand up?
Our congressional birthday song.
Our congressional birthday song.
Ready?
Yep. This is your birthday song. It doesn't last too long. Hey! I told you, that was efficient, right? That's the smallest government that you're getting out of Washington. That's right, that's the only time it's efficient. I do have to give a couple of thanks. I know President Trump is not with us. We love him. I wish he was with us. But I do want to very literally say thank you, President Trump, for your endorsement. Thank you, President Trump, for your trust in allowing me to serve as the chair for veterans and military families for Trump across the country. That is an honor. I know there's a lot of veterans out here, and I would say to each and every one of you, thank you for serving our country. We love you, and when you think about why our veterans and our military families, why we love our President Trump, it's because he is the only one, literally the only one fighting to make sure that this is a country that is worth the sacrifice of our friends that were killed in action. He is the only one that is fighting to make sure that this is a country that is worth the sacrifice of those Gold Star families that are home each day without their loved one. He is the only one that is fighting day after day after day to make sure that this is a country worthy of the sacrifice of our warriors that are downrange as we speak. He is the only one that is fighting day after day to make sure that this is a country worthy of the sacrifice of every single one of you that ever put on a uniform in defense of this country. That is why we love our President Trump. That is how he makes America great again. CORY and I, we sit on a couple of committees together. We sit on the Foreign Affairs Committee together, and each day, unfortunately, we have to sit there and we see this and we fight against it, but we see it daily as we exist in this vacuum where there is strength and power sapped from the United States of America, and it's replaced with wokeness and weakness, and we see this in front after front after front. And we see it recently. You saw as there were, thank God, there were those that were wrongfully detained abroad that were returned to the shores of the United States of America. We love that. But the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, even stated as they were coming home that it was an unbalanced trade. That's the way that our foreign affairs dealings are going in the United States of America, in unbalanced ways for the United States of America. And this is what changes when we get President Trump back into office. We have unbalanced trade, but it's unbalanced in the favor of Americans. That's what putting America first is all about. That's how we make America great, is let things be unbalanced in the favor of each and every one of you, in the favor of the red, white, and blue, in the favor of this place, not to Vladimir Putin, not to Xi Jinping, not to China, not to Russia, not to Iran, not to North Korea, not to anywhere else. And that's what this president is all about. And that's what changes when he gets in and he makes America great again. We dig at it on a daily basis on the Foreign Affairs Committee, where we oversee the State Department, where they replace the idea of strategy and tactics and having plans for what will happen with our relationships, with our diplomats, with our military, and those countries abroad. And they replace that with simply squandering your dollars by sending them abroad to other places not tied to any broader U.S. policy. And I'll give you a list of some of these things. Some of them you see on a regular basis in front of your eyes, and some of these things maybe you've heard nothing about at all. Of course, you've heard about Ukraine. And I want to see Ukraine beat the snot out of Russia, but I am not a person, along with my colleague, that votes to send your dollars to Ukraine in a situation where there have been 900 plus days of war, no plan whatsoever for victory. We see in the face of this, there's no plan whatsoever for what we hope to extract from this conflict. Will there be Russian nuclear demilitarization because they've elevated their nuclear threat posture, or demilitarized zones along NATO borders because they've invaded the sovereignty of another nation? Does Putin have to be out of power, or do they even have to be out of Ukraine or Crimea or Georgia or anywhere else? None of these literally are strategies or plans of attack that the United States of America is executing with your dollars that they are sending abroad. But as they recently sent $65 billion of your money to the Ukraine, as they were penning that check over there on top of the hundreds of billions that they've already supported with Ukraine with, the European Union was penning their own check of support for that war with Ukraine against Russia. But when they were penning their check, it was to a lesser amount than what the United States of America penned their check with your dollars for. And not only was it a lesser amount, but as the United States of America under Biden and Harris took your dollars and said, we're going to dump this $65 billion on them immediately in one vote, in 1 second, in one check cashing, the European Union says, no, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to give them a check. It's going to be a lesser amount of money, but they're going to slowly trickle that out over the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. That's not how we make America great again, and that's not putting America first. And when Donald Trump is back in office, that's exactly what will change. One of the ones that my colleague, Representative Mills, and I recently unearthed was about a grant to Nepal. Now, we see grants constantly of all different sizes for all different reasons, and most all of them a large waste of your dollars. Some of them for $20,000, some of them for $25, some of them for $25 million, and all points in between. This one was a grant for $500,000 to expand atheism in Nepal. That's a real thing. That was $500,000 of your money sent by a liberal sitting in the embassy in Nepal, just executing their own policy, not tied to any broader U.S. policy, not doing anything to combat China, not doing anything to help Taiwan, not doing anything to help the United States of America or any relationship that we have in the region, just working to execute what they considered their own liberal agenda with your dollars, expanding atheism in Nepal. And that's not how you make America great again, and that's not how you make America first, and that will change when Donald Trump is again president. Maybe you heard when we unearthed the plan, luckily we stopped these grants from actually going through, but the plan to spend $20,000 a pop to do drag shows in Ecuador. That was a real grant. We unearthed it, we stopped it, but had it not been unearthed and had it not been stopped, the Harris-Biden administration would be at $20 a clip, $20 a clip, $20 a clip, spending your money to help conduct diplomacy abroad through drag shows. I don't know, they must have the same consultants that the Paris Olympics has, something like that. But that's not how you put America first. That's not how you make America great again. And that will change when Donald Trump is once again president. I know every one of you saw the waste that took place and the tragedy that took place in the withdrawal from Afghanistan, the billions of dollars of equipment left behind, the people left behind. Literally, my colleague, Mr. Mills, spent his own time, his own treasure to charter aircraft to bring Americans home, to bring Americans out of there. But what you probably don't see are the hundreds of millions of dollars that to this day, though we do not have an embassy there, though we do not have an air base there, though China is sitting with their feet kicked up inside of places that we used to occupy, hundreds of millions of dollars of your money are still going to the Taliban week after week, month after month, and year under the Harris-Biden administration. Hundreds of billions of dollars that we know about, and that doesn't even count the billions of dollars that go to the United Nations, and then the United Nations take those dollars, send them into Afghanistan, and they end up in the hands of the Taliban. And that is not how you make America great again. That is not how you put America first, and that will change when Donald Trump becomes president again. America and Israel, two of the greatest allies to ever exist on the face of this earth. I will keep speaking about Trump, but I'll say this. There was a picture you put up a few minutes ago when Larry was speaking. It was a picture of me walking with a flag over my shoulder. I'll just take a moment here. There's a picture with a flag. I was walking on a Veterans Day parade, had a couple medals on that I earned in combat, and this is the only thing I'll say about politics tonight in my race. But the individual that I'm running against, in order to call me a traitor, actually took that photo right there. To call me a traitor, he photoshopped out the American flag, took it out of the picture, put on an Israeli flag, who was a great ally of ours, but he took our flag out of it, took off my military medals and my blue blazer, put me in an Israeli military uniform, which I did proudly wear as somebody serving the IDF long before I was in Congress. But that's what took place in order to call me a traitor. I just don't think that's right, personally. Photoshopping out the American flag on any front, to me, that's a traitorous act. But the fact of the matter is, as we speak, America and Israel, our militaries are playing defense. And the reason that they're playing defense is because you have a world that is not respecting our offense right now. You have Iran that has been emboldened by not layering the sanctions that were on them under the Trump administration's back on them. They have a greater increasing economy day after day, probably surpassing the GDP of the United States of America. Not surpassing the GDP, but the percentage of growth of GDP of the United States of America this year because of the sanctions that were not taken off them, the oil that they're allowed to go out there and sell across the globe. That's how they're funding this. The Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, you name it, the list that they're funding, the groups that they're funding, that's directly because of the Biden and Harris administration. That will end when Donald Trump becomes president.